cmpradio.net. It's the station.
Good afternoon, excuse me, that came off wrong. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Mental Health Talk for yours truly. I am Christina McIntire. I hope that y'all week went as smoothly as it could. If some things happened that you didn't want to or couldn't, let's not worry about what happened yesterday. Let's focus on the now and the future. Don't forget to visit my website, www.becomeyourc.com, and subscribe. This is where I talk about the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual aspects of ourselves to help unveil our true identity. Also, follow me on Instagram at Become Your C, Facebook, BYC Become Your C, YouTube, BYC Become Your C, where I share all of my podcasts, and I'm on TikTok as well at Become Your C. If you're interested in reading something that will help you think outside of the box, I have my book. It's called Become Your C, 21 Poems to Ignite Your Spiritual Journey. If you're interested, there is a link on my Facebook page, Christina McIntire. You can order it as an ebook or a paperback. Also, if you're interested in learning about a holistic approach to mental health or everyday living, I talk about the chakras. You can message me about those as well. I have bracelets and necklaces for sale to help you on your spiritual journey. I wanted to give a big thanks to Tyra Kirkland for donating her space to make my homeless event a success. Also to Rosie Delva for donating the food. It's important that we give back to our community in any way possible. And it's important to connect with people that can help you along that journey as well. I'm so grateful for people for opening up their hearts and their space and their resources so that I was able to pull this together so that we were able to feed more than 40 people in our community this past Wednesday. I'm so thankful and humble and grateful for the experience. If you have time, and that's what I tell people, money matters somewhat, but it's what you do with your time that matters, and that's what's most important. A lot of times people just need people's time. So if you can provide anything, provide your time, a listening ear, a conversation to someone that may need it. We don't know how someone is suffering. We don't know where they're at. We should never judge someone based on their circumstance, because at any moment we could be where they are. My heart always has been connected with the homeless population. I was homeless, me and my family lived in a homeless shelter growing up for a little bit, and the experience always left an imprint on my heart, and that is how I would love to give back. So find something that you know that you can utilize, whatever gift that you have on the inside, if it's serving, if it's creating, do something that can help someone that can never repay you back. It's important that we serve each other, because I believe that that's what we're here for. Use our gifts to service others. So find it in your heart, especially during this holiday season. If you have time, if you don't have the time, if you can donate something monetary to some organizations that need it, or if you see someone in need, or if you know someone in need, please help them in any way possible. If we have and our brother and sisters do not have, we're doing a disservice to them and to ourselves. as long as we have a roof over our head, food in our stomachs, clothes on our back, if we have extra, please provide it to those that need it, because that little bit could make their day. That little bit could help them along the way. So do something in the community this holiday season. Also, I do want to put something together for the Christmas holidays. I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't know if it's going to be another feeding event or a collection of hats, scarves, and gloves. I will be posting that within this week to let everyone know. So if you're interested in helping out or donating, you can message me as well, and reach out to me. Also, during the holiday season, it tends to get a little depressed, a little sad. They have something called SAD, the seasonal affective disorder, which during the winter months, the colder months, because the sun is not as prominent as the springtime and the summer, we tend to get more depressed and more sad, and especially around the holiday seasons. A lot of people may have lost people during the holiday season. They feel isolated. Maybe they have to work. They can't be with their family, especially right now during COVID. A lot of families are still isolated. So we want to reach out, or try to reach out to those people that you feel left out, or you see that maybe they're posting things that may be a sign of that they need company. Just do something a little extra during the holiday season or during the winter months to let people know that you care and that you hear them. Some people are afraid to reach out because they don't want to be a bother, right? And so it's important that if we have friends, family in our life, that they feel like they're valued as well. I think sometimes we always want things for ourselves. We want people to reach out to us. We want people to do for us, but we're not willing to do that for someone else. So take time, sit and reflect and see who you can help. And sometimes it just takes a listening ear. Some people just want to know that someone cares and someone loves them. So definitely reach out. And if you do feel suicidal during this holiday season, or you're having some thoughts, which is fine, which is perfectly normal, let's not let suicide be an option. There is help. There are people that are willing to listen. The suicide hotline is 1-800-273-8255, or you can visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. You have purpose and you need to be here, and I want you to be here. Let's not let the holiday get us down. Let's try to do something more productive. I believe that when we're busy and we're doing for others, it kind of touches our heart in a way that it takes away from what we're suffering from. So if you're feeling like that and you're feeling alone during the holiday season, maybe volunteer, maybe do something that you can. Maybe you can't be around your family, but maybe you can be a family to someone else. So the topic for this week is mental health and spirituality. This is really important to me, especially as I go along my journey and self-discovery. I have went back and forth between my spirituality. I think a lot of times people tie religion to spirituality. You can be religious and spiritual, but you can have spirituality without being religious. And I think it's important to understand who you are as a person and where you fit in at. I think a lot of times, sometimes religion can create so much restrictions that it questions who you are as a person. So I'm gonna just go over it a little bit and give you just some insights of where I'm coming from with this. So with religion in regards to spirituality to me means internal, right? We're looking inwards to heal, to ask questions, to wonder. Religion creates a group of people coming together to worship a being, God, superpower, or whatnot. However, sometimes religion can be so strict that it creates conflict within ourselves, right? We all are set up to have our own thoughts, belief system, and when you belong to a certain religions and you have different beliefs than them, they kind of put you in an isolated place, like you don't belong here, or it's a spirit inside of you that's causing you this, causing you to be this way. So it's important that you figure out where you're at, especially religion wise and spiritual wise, so that you don't feel that you have to become someone you're not. And I think sometimes if you grew up religious, a lot of people don't understand that it kind of creates an imbalance in you because you're questioning yourself. For me, I grew up in church since probably the age of 7 or 8, and I believe in God. I like going to church, but I know that it created some questions that I had and questions that people can't answer. And um, if I'm feeling a certain way, why is that? And it's not okay to be this way. You know, people speak from the Bible and they say that if you don't follow these, you're going to hell. And it kind of frightens us. But I think as you get older, you start to question it. And that's what some religions don't want you to do. They don't want you to question what's in place. But spirituality has more to do with being in tune with who you are, with everything around you. And you're supposed to question things, especially if they make you feel uncomfortable. A lot of us have this thing called intuition that we know when something is right or wrong, or if it doesn't sit right with us. And it's okay to go against that. For me, it started about, I want to say, 3 or 4 years ago, 4 at the most, where I had to ask myself questions. Am I, like when I was going to church, was I going for myself or because I felt obligated because that's how I was brought up? And so for me, I had to let it go because I was going just because out of obligation, and that's not how it's supposed to be. And so when I stopped going, I worship in my own time. Like you can be spiritual and believe in God, but not attend church. It's all about your mental space, where your head is at. You can worship whatever God you choose to worship in your own time. You don't necessarily need a church to do that, but they, a lot of religions scare you and saying that if you don't do this, then you're going to hell. If you don't do this, you're going to hell. And that frightens, especially if you're like a 7, 8-year-old kid and you're growing up with this. So you can't even do what you know that feels right or do what you feel like your purpose is, because if you do, you're saying, okay, this is wrong, and the church doesn't like that. So going on a spiritual journey, it's it's tough because now you're sitting with yourself, right? You're asking self questions. God is still there, but it's more so of taking ownership. For me, spirituality means taking ownership of how I want my life to be and how I'm going to create my life to be. A lot of times we pray to God and we ask God these things that we want and what we need. And I believe in God will align you with the right people. He will put things into place. But I think people sometimes be so dependent on God that they forget to do their work with themselves. And so they rely on God, and when things happen, they blame God. Or when things don't happen, they blame God instead of looking inwardly and seeing what you're doing for yourself. So for me, spirituality is getting in touch with yourself and asking yourself questions. And as regard to dealing with mental health, for me, taking this journey, having a holistic approach to mental health has created balance within me, has created more focus because I didn't know what was going on. Yes, mental health is hereditary. It's hereditary in my family. It can be a chemical imbalance as well, biological, environmental, right? And also the spiritual aspect of it. We get imbalances. I'm going to go about the chakras a little bit because this is what it's linked to. So I talk about holistic approach to mental health, dealing with the chakras, right? Chakras are energies in our body, and when they become out of balance, they create so much havoc internally because it's trying to force us to become who we need to be. Ask ourselves some questions that we're afraid to ask, right? Every answer that we seek is within us, right? It's out there. Everything that is out there is within us. But sometimes we're afraid to ask these questions because we don't want to be a disappointment, right? Let's say you believe in something so wholeheartedly, but it's against what everyone else says. So you will not speak up because you're afraid to be isolated. You're afraid to be labeled. So you hold on to this. But what happens when you hold on to things so long? They spill over and it may come out in an aggressive or angered way. So when our chakras are out of balance spiritually, it can create mental health disorders. And I'm going to just briefly go through some of them. So the root chakra is your first chakra. It's located at your pelvic, right? Your tailbone. It's responsible for safety, security, and stability. And a lot of times this stems from childhood. If you felt abandoned as a child, you will have issues in this area. And this is where anxiety starts. So if you're a person that suffers from increased anxiety, you need to start at the root. Figure out what's going on inside of you, or what happened that caused you to have anxiety, what caused you to be afraid. Then you ask yourself questions, and that's how you start the healing process. You can't heal if you don't recognize that there was an issue. And a lot of times we put these memories off because maybe they were painful. Maybe we don't want to deal with it. But if you don't deal with something, it's going to keep coming back. I also believe that God will keep putting you in the same situation over and over again until you learn the lesson. So this is a lesson to learn. The second chakra is your sacral chakra. It's located like at your belly button. This is responsible for creativity, expression, and sexuality, right? So when it's out of balance, it can cause addiction, OCD, and depression. If you're not able to express, to get out, right? You're holding and it bottles up. And this holding things in can create physical illnesses as well. So if you're feeling sad and you're feeling like you can't say what you need to say, or you feel like you're down in the dumps, you're not as productive as you need to be, it's because that chakra is out of balance. Third one is the solar plexus, located right below your chest. This is responsible for power, right? Self-esteem, self-confidence. If it's not imbalanced, you will have, again, anxiety, depression. And if you're a narcissistic, this is where your imbalance lies, right? You feel like everyone owes you something. You feel obligated to. Also, the fourth one is your heart chakra, and this is located at your heart. It's responsible for love, self-love, and relationships. And so when these are out of balance, it's responsible for your depression and anxiety, right? So your heart is the bridge between the more spiritual, what's the higher up of chakras, and your physical, and it's bridging the gap. So when the energy is not flowing through, it can create palpitations, and it can create the tension that anxiety brings. So if you find yourself in these states of mind, ask yourself questions. Where is this all coming from? What relationships do you need to find balance in, or what relationships you may need to get rid of? If you find yourself in places, in these mental health places, and you wonder how can you get out, maybe it's time to check internally. Also, your fifth one is your throat chakra. It's located at your throat. This is responsible for communication, being able to communicate clearly and effectively. And when we can't do that, we have dependent personality disorder, anxiety and depression, and paranoid, right? Your third eye is responsible for intuition, wisdom, guidance. And when this is out of balance, you have delusional disorders, personality disorders, paranoid, hallucinations, schizophrenic, and your last is your crown, is at the top of your head. This is responsible for higher consciousness, ultimate spirituality, and schizophrenic and bipolar disorder. So this goes more in depth, and it's really leveled, but this has helped me as a guide to dealing with my mental health, because I ask myself questions, and this is what you need to do. You have to constantly ask yourself questions. why you're feeling this way. If you check all the boxes, like, okay, maybe it's not biological, or maybe it is, right? But you did everything that you could do. And now sometimes it's time to look inwardly. And this is what people, I think, sometimes are afraid of, because if we do what we want to do, then people will question us. Maybe people don't want to deal with us, or they won't believe us, or it seems so far-fetched, or we seem crazy, right? I believe that a lot of times when our chakras is out of alignment, they create the bipolar and the schizophrenia. And maybe some of them people that we see walking around is not as crazy as we label them to be. Maybe they just need to get in tune with who they are. But because the world doesn't tolerate or doesn't accept that, they can't become who they are. So a lot of times when we're out of balance, it creates more issues for us. And how do we get back to balancing ourselves? It takes a lot of work. No matter what road you take, you have to be consistent in whatever you're doing. You have to go about it every day. And as far as spirituality is concerned, it's not something that you just turn on and off. Once you unlock the deepest part of you, and once you start questioning what's real or what's not, you're beginning your spiritual journey. And now you have to follow through. And it's not an easy journey, because you're constantly questioning things. You're seeking answers and results, and you want them. Like I said, everything that we need, the answers to what we seek, is within us. We have to sit with ourselves long enough to listen and to hear the response. But because we're so afraid to go against the grain, we cause ourselves more issues and more problems. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle to sit here and know who you are, but you can't become who you are because the world is not ready for it. The world doesn't want to accept. They don't want to accept that someone has a different belief system than they, right? The normal belief system, or the world spread, is Christianity, Muslim, or whatnot. So when you question these things and say, hey, I believe this is this way, people look at you. They start throwing daggers at you, and then they call you crazy. And this is why a lot of people don't like to openly share. And if you can't openly share your thoughts and how you feel, and you keep that bottled up, stuff is going to go crazy on the inside. You'll feel crazy. And this is where all these mental health disorders comes in at, right? And so how do we balance that? How do we get to the point where they're not so prevalent? I don't believe that there is a cure for mental health disorders. I believe that whatever route that we choose to take can help alleviate them, but we cannot stop the journey, whatever journey you decide to take. If you don't believe in spirituality and you don't want to take it that route, well, if you do the medication, you have to see it through. If you do therapy, you have to see it through. If you do it the religion aspect, you have to see it through. But for me, the holistic approach, it just opens your mind to a different way of thinking. It helps you get in touch with who you are. You start believing in manifestation, things that you want to happen are happening. Everything starts with a thought, and not just like we always, what we're thinking now, but our subconscious thought. Our cells in our body listen to everything that we speak to them, right? Everything that we put out there, it goes out in the universe and comes back to us. So if you constantly think negatively, it will affect you negatively. So we have to kind of change the way that we see things and go about things and to think about things. And it's hard. It's hard to question what you were used to growing up to what you are now. But if you feel something is not right, if you feel like you should be on a different path than where you are, you got to slowly step out the box, because we're only here for a limited amount of time. And don't you want your life to be peaceful and vital? You want to thrive. Being stuck in a box, you'll never be able to get out. You won't be able to breathe. You'll suffocate yourself because of an idea of someone else. Spirituality teaches you how to think for yourself, how to navigate for yourself, how to create your own reality. For me, it has been an eye opener. For me, has been healing, and it's not done yet. For every step that I take, is more work that needs to be done. And that's what it is. And it's all internal. Like, you can't see it. Someone could be going through a manic episode, a bipolar episode, have an anxiety attack, panic attack, be depressed, and you won't even know it because mental health disorders doesn't have a face. It's all internal. So people that deal with this is struggling internally. They think that is something wrong with them, not knowing that maybe they're out of alignment with who they are and they need to get back on that track. But they don't know how to because they were only taught this one way of healing. So they stick to what is acceptable instead of looking somewhere else. And this is why I offer a holistic approach to mental health, because it helps you dig deeper. It helps you uncover the trauma, uncover the pain, and start dealing with that. Taking ownership of your responsibility and your healing process. And this is what you have to do. A lot of times we blame our past, we blame people, but at the end of the day, we're the only one that's stuck with us. So we have to do the work it takes. Not saying that some people aren't responsible for things that happen to us, but the longer that we give the power to that person, the longer it takes for us to heal, the longer they hold control over us. So we need to let go of that and focus on how we want our life to be and how we should navigate through the world. And what I urge people to do, if you want to attempt this approach, a spiritual approach to dealing with mental health, get a notebook, paper, whatnot, and write down things that you want to do in your life, that you want, that you need, that you desire, and write down things that you know you need to fix inside, right? Things that you're dealing with, things that you don't want to deal with. A lot of our hurt, or a lot of our pain hurts so bad that we don't want to face it, but you can't let it go for too long. You can't hide behind your pain, because what's going to happen is going to come up at the wrong time. You're going to lash out. You're going to be angry. You're going to wondering why you're isolated. Well, maybe because this happened. So now you have to deal with this and ask yourself, why did this happen? Okay, what can I do to heal from that? How can I move forward? If you don't deal with it, you're going to keep constantly going through the panic attacks, the anxiety attacks, physically, sometimes migraines, heart palpitations. I know you want it to stop, but it's not going to stop if you don't address the issue, right? That's like going to the doctor and you have like stomach pain, right? Maybe you have a digestive disorder. So in order for the pain to stop, you have to get the medication to heal. So my medication for healing is to work on the issues on the inside, because everything that we're going through is a built up, right? Stress is the cause of a lot of issues, especially digestive issues, but that's also related to the solar plexus and the sacral chakra, and it's out of balance. Why is it out of balance? Are you being creative? Are you giving away your power too much? Are you not being approachable enough? Or are you not saying what you need to say? Constantly ask yourself questions. Just because something is set in stone doesn't make it the right way. You can choose for your life how you want to go about your life. And if you choose a different approach other than what's normal, that is okay. You have to be okay with yourself. You have to be comfortable living with yourself each and every day. And if that means doing something different than what the world accepts, then so be it. Again, I believe that God will put in your life the people that you need, the places that you need to be, as long as you believe in yourself. You can believe in God and be a spiritual person and not be religious. You don't have to be tied down to the rules of religion to be spiritual. Spiritual has everything to do with becoming who you need to be for yourself, and then sharing who you are with the world. But the world won't ever know that if you don't figure out a way to deal with everything you got bottled up on the inside that you need to let go. And this is why I say, just think outside of the box. Try it. Start listening to meditation, binaural beats on YouTube. I listen to it for everything, for anxiety, for depression, for migraines, and it helps heal. It helps you think it sends vibrations to your cells so that you can be relaxed enough to open up to see what you need to do for yourself. Well, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. You can watch me each and every Sunday at 12 p.m. on cmpradio.net on Facebook. If you have any questions about spirituality and mental health, you want to learn more about the chakras in regards to spirituality and mental health disorders, you can always message me. I'm available, and I will give to you as much as I can. I'm not an expert on this. I'm learning as I go, but I can tell you from the time I started until now, I have definitely been in a better place mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally doing this way. Also, don't forget to visit my website, www.becomeyourseed.com, where I talk about our emotional, physical, spiritual aspects of ourselves to help unveil our true identity. Instagram, Become Your Seed. Facebook, BYC, Become Your Seed. YouTube, BYC, Become Your Seed. Remember that all things you need are within. Don't be afraid to become who you are. Fall in love with yourself so the world can fall in love with you. Till next time.